Good morning. It's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Before we get into the topic today, I'm going to share a thought that I had about my 1/10 ounce gold collection. So right now, I'm planning on moving forward buying a quarter ounce of gold every 3 months or so. It's on every time that a month has a fifth week. At the same time, I'm kind of working on this 1/10 ounce coin collection. So I'm not going to be wanting to buy a 10th ounce and a quarter ounce so often. So I think I'm going to adjust it to at least a quarter ounce. That way I can work on my coins that are between the 1/10 ounce and quarter ounce size, like the 20 francs, the sovereigns, $5 coins like that I really do like all of that series of coins. In addition to that, I'll add a 10th ounce, and I'll do that when my coin shop doesn't have a quarter ounce available. So that's the plan moving forward. That's the way I'm going to be buying gold, keeping to my quarter ounce goal, but also continuing to work on this 1/10 ounce typeset. But unfortunately, today's video is not about gold, so let me just quickly put all this back. Instead, today we're talking about something that I feel is hugely neglected and a little bit controversial. Today, we're talking about 40% silver. Before I go any further, I have to give a quick shout out to Emily Derbs for being the first to comment on my video yesterday. I always shout out the first to comment, so if you'd like your name in my video, make sure you get to the comments first. Thank you all so much for participating in this somewhat of a game that I've created, trying to be the first to comment. It's actually really amusing to see that you guys within seconds are in my comment section. And while you're down there, make sure you're liking the video. Of course, subscribe if you haven't. The best way to become the first comment is actually to hit the bell notification so that you're notified as soon as my video drops. But let's finally get into this 40% silver. You can see that I've stacked up all these books, and we're going to be going through each one to find the few coins that are 40% silver. And actually, since today is Friday, that means I did make a purchase yesterday. So let's see what I picked up at my coin shop. So I've committed to buying $1 in face value in 90% silver every week. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm actually rotating between dimes, quarters, half dollars, and dollars. It's going to line up with each week of the month. So the first week, that would have been last week, I bought 10 dimes. So this week being the second week of the month, it's quarter time. So I bought 4 quarters. All these quarters actually look stunning. These are uncirculated quarters from the 50s, and I just love how they look. We're going to check the date run that I have in my albums to see if these can upgrade any of them. I know I do have quite a few uncirculated coins within this date range, so we'll definitely just have to pull that out and check. Here it is, and as you can see, I actually can upgrade this 1956 from Philadelphia. So we'll go ahead and pull it out and put it in the new coin. For those of you that are somewhat interested in these albums or putting them together, but you fancy yourself a little bit more of a stacker than a collector, I mean, you can just buy the quarters you're going to buy and fill up these books without intentionally trying or spending extra money on these nicer looking coins. But what I will recommend is don't switch out the coins too often, because it will stretch out the holes in this book. It might even cause the coins to actually fall out and you might lose them. So make sure that if you have any coins that are even a little bit loose in these holes, that you're upgrading to a new album instead of just dealing with the coins falling out. I actually couldn't find my gloves to get this into the holes, so I used these little jewelry cloths. I mean, they're meant to protect silver, so it definitely does work. If you're putting coins in, especially uncirculated coins, into the albums, you definitely don't want fingerprints, or you don't want to touch the face of the coins at all. A fingerprint will live forever on the coin and you'll never be able to get it off. So definitely don't just put your finger directly on the face of a coin. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and display these 4 quarters on my coin display. That way the next month when I do end up buying another 4 quarters, we can swap them out and we'll be able to see each month what 90% silver I end up buying. So as you can tell, I stack silver, but with a little bit of a coin collector's mindset. I do enjoy getting all the different dates, all the different varieties and such, but I only do it if I can get it close to the regular cost. So this is another example. This is a 2024 American Eagle with MS70. So ever since I finished my date run for the Eagles, I like to get the proofs MS70 for the business strike or any reverse proof or burnished coins, as long as they are very close to the American Eagle price. Here's another example. This is a vintage generic ounce. This is made in 1985. So vintage is really anything that is before countries started making their own silver, because the only way to get silver was through a generic company. A lot of these companies went out of business once countries started making 1 ounce coins. So some of these are pretty scarce and demand a higher premium. In this case, I'm not too sure if A-Mark does, but it is still a beautiful coin. Let's go ahead and take a look at my last 2 receipts, so last week and this week. You can go ahead and pause here to see really what I ended up paying, but the idea is that I average out the cost between all of similarly priced products. So American Eagles, if I look at this week and last week, the average cost between the two is $60.77. I know I did just spend $64.75 on an American Eagle, but we're looking at it over time. I'm going to build up an average that will be lower than what I spent today because I was buying it much cheaper before. All right, and with that, we are finally going to make our way to the 40% silver. So 40% silver, I feel like, is hugely neglected in the stacking space. I think that the lower purity really does deter people away, but because it's so unliked, there's a lot of deals going on where you can buy it significantly under spot, which makes the spread very close. A lot of people forget that they actually did make 40% silver on the bicentennial year, which means that they made a 40% quarter. So that's what I'm showing here is my 40% quarter collection. But as you can see, I kind of got to flip through all of my books to get to them. And that's just because there was clad before the bicentennial year and clad after the bicentennial year. So the clad is just a term that is used for the coins that are circulating now. They're a copper nickel plated copper plug. So no, copper nickel plated copper center. See, like, it's just weird to explain. So people use clad. It's a copper center of the coin covered in copper nickel. There's no silver in it. Those are the coins that circulate today. And that is what we're actually using as coinage instead of silver. So when you hear clad, it really just means that there's layers to the coin. And this 40% is actually called silver clad because there's all kinds of weird stuff going on with the layers of the coin. Here I have my book of Eisenhower dollars. So these are actually clad coins as well, but they made the 40% in the San Francisco Mint. I really do like collecting the clad Eisenhower dollars. And it actually has to do with how cheap you're able to get copper. The clad copper coins are a 91.6% copper. And if you're to collect enough Eisenhower dollars to make a pound of copper, it's actually 22 coins. So if you're buying them at face value, that's $22 per pound of copper. And if you look at the copper bullion stuff, like the pure copper, they actually sell for a lot higher premium than that. So these Eisenhower dollars are actually a really great way to stack copper. Back to the 40% silver. The most important thing that you can take away from the video is that it's actually a very short series to collect all of the 40% silver coins. There's only 24 different coins, and that includes business strike and proofs. They only ran from 1965 until 1976. My total for all of my 40% silver comes out to 7.13 ounces, which brings my running total to 452.33. I guess I didn't really get to talk much about the 40% silver, but really this video was me just participating in the community's neglect for this 40% silver. 40% is something I actually really do enjoy, and I love talking about it. I think it's such an interesting time in our economic history as we moved away from using silver in circulation. If you really do want to hear about 40% silver, I'm definitely down to make a whole nother video about actually talking about it. But this is actually going to be it for today, so I'll just leave you with this. Remember, every ounce adds up. So no matter how small, just keep stacking. Even if it's just a little bit of 40%.